Immerse yourself in the lives of the BYU Cougars. This is Deep Blue. This is Deep Blue with Jason Shepard.
Thanks for tuning in for a new episode of Deep Blue. This is the show where we get to know the person behind the number that you see on the field or the court. These are the true stories of BYU athletes from their own mouths. My guest today, legendary, and I want to highlight the word legendary, BYU and NFL punter, and by the way, current assistant development director and major gifts officer. That's quite the title, by the way. Yeah. Lee Johnson joining me.
Hello, how are you? Good to be here.
I'm doing very good.
Wonderful.
So let's start. Look, we have so many things to talk with you about. I'm so excited about this conversation, but let's start with what you're doing now. We just mentioned the title. You work with the Cougar Club.
I do.
So explain what it is that you're doing with the Cougar Club.
Myself, Chad Lewis, our director, Robbie Bosco, the great Robbie Bosco, Randall Hill, Jana Lee Davis, Megan Huber. We look for people who love BYU, love the brand, love what we stand for, love what we want to do, the whole mission of BYU through athletics. Those who have capacity to give us money to help us grow the program. That's our job. And we have amazing donors. They step up whenever we ask, and we're really lucky.
It feels like that the donations have increased quite a bit in recent years because the excitement around – look, there's always going to be excitement around BYU sports. Just that's what the fan base – it's what the fan base loves. But when you then throw in joining the Big 12, and we're seeing the success not just with football and with basketball, and that's certainly obvious, but you've got national championships coming from track and all these different sports. There's so much going on with BYU. It feels like there's even more people who are wanting to be a part of that.
We're a national brand. We're in a great place right now. We have donors throughout the country who just want to be a part of it. It helps we have this high demand with guys like AJ and, of course, Big 12, doing well in the Big 12, and it just opens the door. Here's the cool thing. Even when we're not doing well, the early days of Kalani, we still had people step up because they love the brand of BYU. And that's cool to see.
Well, and I've got to imagine, look, and you've seen this during independence, it was just a completely different era.
Yeah.
How have things changed, or in what ways have you seen things change just being a P4 program, finally getting that designation?
You know, early on, I was better players, for one. More stars. I don't know if Kalani really deals with stars or like stars, but just the attention of the church. We've always, back in the 80s, 90s, we always got LDS players. We always got the guys from Hawaii, the Polynesian folk. We'd always come to BYU. We lost some of that during the 2000s, and I think it was just because bigger programs were coming in and kind of taking our guys. Now I think it helps us get the LDS athlete, and the non-LDS guys are going to at least listen. And if we get the guy with his mom and dad on campus, we do really well because it's a cool place and they feel something when they get here. So that's what I'm seeing.
Well, when you look, everybody, certainly those that are BYU fans and longtime BYU fans know who you are and what you represent in terms of the athletic side of things, but also being a BYU alum. When you're out and about, what type of interactions do you have with people? When they realize that you're from BYU, whether it's because they know who you are or they find out in the course of a conversation, what's typically something that's brought up to you about BYU?
Early on, it was always McMahon, Young, Bosco. Tell me about those guys. What was it like? LaVell, the high-powered offense, the scoring. I dealt with that all through my NFL career. They always knew about BYU because our quarterback's the offense, how well we did. We lost a little bit of that through the years, and now it really is just, wow, the things we're doing. The recognition, the national recognition, people just talk about it. They're familiar with the brand and what we do and who we are. And I think that's why it's so cool that we've been able to continue on with NIL and paying the players, which I thought would be a real problem early on. I did not think the folks in Salt Lake would really be a real fan of it, but I think they're seeing the power of the brand and what it can do to build the kingdom. So,
as someone that didn't have NIL, how do you look at it now? It's like, man, that could have been really nice.
Yeah, I'd be loaded right now. It is. I've struggled with it a little bit. And I still think I am a little, but I love to see the guys taking advantage. I love that it's now an even count.
Correct.
I love that side of it. I didn't like the Wild West. That bugged me too much, and it just wasn't right. And I would like to see more spread out to other sports, but I'm not sure if that was going to happen either, just because football drives everything. But it's good to see. I think as long as the kids can they need to get some financial management. They need to take this money and we need to do a job as a university, as a conference, to educate the kids, the young men and women, on money management, just to make sure they don't come out of here without having a great nest egg.
You said something a second ago that I think is so important in this whole thing. It's leveled the playing field. It's allowed everybody to be able to go after the same pool of players and try and go after a certain type of player, whatever that may be. I think leveling the playing field and everything being out in the open and on the table, it's completely changed this sport. I mean, it's night and day from what it used to be.
It is, but it does create a problem. Before NIL, before paying the players, you had the under-the-table stuff.
Yep.
Then NIL, Wild West came in, and you don't need under-the-table. You can pay anyone anything. This parity does bring back the under-the-table.
Right.
It does bring it back. So the $20.5 million is there. It's going to stay there, but no one's going to keep someone from giving something under the table, whether it's through a fake NIL deal. Of course, it gets vetted now by a third party. But you're always going to have cheaters. It's just the way it is. And when it's structured like it is now, you're going to have cheaters. When it was a Wild West, there's no cheating because everyone's going to do whatever. But it's good to see $20.5 million, a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
A lot of programs are going to come up with that. We're going to have a difficult time as well coming up with that much money each year if we choose to spend it.
When you look at what this program has accomplished and not the program, the athletic department has been able to do in such a short period of time, what has impressed you most about the way that the administration has handled BYU athletics through the years?
I'm in awe of Kalani. The things that he does. He had a rough start. Kalani came in and was figuring out how to be a head coach, figuring out who to hire and the right guys to hire and the right way to be. He's always wanted to be a LaVell guy. But
sure.
I'm most impressed with Kalani. When you sit in and hear him talk, I worry about Kalani because if I introduce him to someone, he won't leave. He will not turn on his back on that individual. I have to say, Kalani, thank you. You need to go back to practice. He's a gifted dude, and the things he says and the way he handles the athletes is so impressive.
Yeah.
And I see that, and I highlight Kalani because it's so obvious to me. Where Tom is he's one of my guys. We played together. We're dudes. He's always been impressive. And I think Brian Santiago Brian's his own style versus Tom, but I think he's also coming into his own, kind of like Kalani did, and figuring out, this is a new role. It's a platform. I'm front-facing. Doing the right thing all the time is critical. And I'm just really impressed with how we're doing things and handling this. We're in front stage.
Yeah.
The lights are on right now, and I'm really impressed with how we're handling it.
And the winning helps immensely, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, my gosh, yeah. When you don't win,
you're
not relevant.
Well, I was telling you before we started recording this that I had Gifford Nielsen, Elder Nielsen.
Please say that.
Yes. So that we had him on here, and one of the things that stood out to me the most about that conversation was how many times he said it is imperative that we are relevant.
Yeah.
We have to be relevant. And for a couple of different reasons. Number one, it's important that BYU is relevant for BYU's own sake because that obviously generates attention and it generates money for BYU itself. But when you have, with it being a missionary tool for the church, you need BYU to be out front and visible because of what it can mean for spreading the gospel.
Yeah. And doing it the right way.
Right.
That was eye-rings, and I think Brian has talked about that. And doing it, winning, and doing it the right way is critical. And I think that from what I see, we're doing it the right way so far.
Yeah.
And we got to be mindful of that. We got to be aware. When we're not, someone's got to fact check us and say, hey, listen, let's pick it up. Let's step it up. But yeah, I'm impressed right now. We're in a good place.
Yeah, it's fun, and the on the field product is certainly living up to all the hype and the expectations. I wanted to ask you this question because look, everybody in their life deals with stress, and I know you dealt with stress as a player. In our everyday lives, we deal with stress. How do you handle stressful situations, and is it different when you were on the field versus maybe how you handle it off the field?
I've always been, as far as an athlete, I don't know how I played 18 years. I'm not a natural. I don't want the ball at the free throw line at the end of the game. I was always stressed.
I've heard you talk about this. This
weird.
Surprised me when I heard you say this.
Yeah.
Why do you think that was?
I don't think I'm just pro. I think that's the intangible. I've got the tangible. No one's got a better tangible. I always had the strongest leg.
Yeah.
I was always a fighter and wanted to go, and that's not even a tangible. That's an intangible. I always had the tangibles. The intangible is wanting that limelight, wanting to be in front of it all. I would walk onto the, when I got cut 4 or 5 times. Every time I got cut in the NFL, I was like, this time I'm going to be better, because I would feel the relief of being cut and realize, well, why would I be so nervous when I play? I'd go back in, and the second I go back in, I'm like, oh my gosh, that feeling is back. And I finally had an epiphany in my 18th year, the NFC Championship game as an Eagle against the Buccaneers. And it's the fourth quarter, and I walk out, and the wind is blowing, and it's 20 degrees. The fans are going crazy, and they call a timeout. And normally on a timeout, I come off the field, and I stayed on the field, and I looked around. I'm like, wow, I'm good. Yeah, I figured it out. 18 years later, I was like, this is what it's like to want to be out here, to not be nervous, and not want to come off the field. And it was a lesson. I've learned 2 lessons. One, even when you don't arrive. Even when you're not there, you can still be successful. I played 18 years as a nervous, scared kid. And then it also teaches you, hey, be patient. It's going to come. Whatever it is you're striving for, whatever you're desiring and you're wanting, you're praying for, it's going to come. Not on your timeline maybe, but it's eventually going to come. Those are 2 lessons I learned from that moment. In the NFC Championship game, we lost, and it was really cool. So I was always a nervous player, and I would always just get through it by, well, when I'm off the field, I did it through exercise, biking, lifting, some way to just get my mind off it and just be kind of silly. I've always been kind of a lighthearted, silly kind of guy. But I was always a nervous player. Had I not been, I would have been a Pro Bowler. I would have been a every-year Pro Bowler, because I had the tangible, the strong leg.
Because of that, do you look back with regret?
That's a great question. No. How can you regret 18 years?
That's what exactly.
I wish that I could have. I think having the accolade, 18 years of Pro Bowl, or what? Maybe not 18, but you get my point.
Yeah.
I was never as good as I could have been. I was always top 10 with that mindset. It was so weird to think I was able to do that and play 18 years. So no regret, but wow, why did you make me do that? Now I'm thinking about it. I don't know. I'm going to think about it.
Okay, so alongside the great Lee Johnson, Jason Shepard with you. This is the Deep Blue Podcast here on BYU Radio. So was that just an on-the-field thing, or was that a personality? Because you do not strike me. Your personality to me is very larger than life and very confident. So that's what, when I heard you say that didn't match up with the person that I've met.
Yeah.
So why do you think there were the two sides?
By nature, I'm a kind of a, no, that's not even true either. It's just not something I want. I felt really, I admire those who go out there and are all-stars, and I can see they want. I admire that, and I've never had it. But I always feared failure, too. My driving force in life is fearing failure. I never wanted to be bad. I never wanted to be the guy that lost the game. I feared, for lack of a better word, sucking so bad that it drove me with great passion. So no one had a greater drive. No one had a greater work ethic. But it was this paradox or whatever it is. I didn't like being out there, but I wanted to be out there.
Right.
So if I had a bad punt, the first punt of the game, I would usually finish pretty strong because I'd be so mad at myself. And it would kind of kick me into this, okay, let's go mindset. Versus I always did well on Monday night games, playoff games, anything where it's nationally televised. I always played well. And I don't know why, versus games that just didn't really matter.
Right.
I don't know. It's still something I'm trying to figure out.
One of the things that I've noticed in my own life, too, is that sometimes there are things that I view as a negative, or maybe more of a nuisance than a negative. But actually, when I look back on my life, it's probably something that the Lord blessed me with that actually allowed me to accomplish probably more than I would have otherwise. Do you think there may be something to that?
There has to be. There has to be. I think the fear of failure is a driving force.
Sure.
And I have no problem. The old school days of if I punted poorly, they would know. They would F-bomb me and grab my face mask, and you don't do that much anymore.
Right.
But I'm okay with that. It's the sport it comes with. But yeah, fearing failure, I think, is why I was able to accomplish what I did, even when I wasn't a natural at what I wish I had.
All right, we're going to get more into your career coming up, but I'm always excited to talk to my guests about where they come from, because where we come from, it sets up everything else in our life. Where did you grow up? Where were you born and where were you raised?
I'm a Texas boy. Dallas, Texas. Richardson, Texas. My mom and dad, and I had a brother and 3 sisters. And my dad was a singer growing up. He was a tenor, professionally sang in Vegas, sang in the Korean War. He was on the Army field band. Mom, who's a phenomenal lady she's still alive, 92. My dad passed about 6 years ago. And we grew up in Texas and had a great life in Texas. Yeah, middle income, middle class kind of guy, just doing my thing, always in sports.
Did you inherit the singing gene? Are you a good singer?
No, I did not, my friend. I always wanted to sing.
Really?
But I never really, I can sing, I can hold a note, carry a tune, but my dad never was like, hey, I want to teach you what I did. But every time he sang, I was embarrassed. Because I was this kid, like my kids, tenors,
Sure.
operatic tenors sing, and they make those funny faces, and they sing really loud, and in church or whatever he's singing, I'm always just kind of like, ooh, I don't like that. But now, I miss it.
You said 2 brothers, 3 sisters, or 2 and 2?
3 sisters and a brother.
Three sisters and a brother. So where did you fall in line?
Middle. I'm the middle kid.
Middle kid.
Yeah, so figure out science on that one. What is that? Middle kids are always messed up.
Okay, so what kind of a life did you have growing up? Was it a good? I mean,
Yeah.
You said sports, and it didn't start with football. It started with soccer, didn't it?
I played soccer my whole life. And it started in 2nd grade all the way till I was a senior in high school. When I moved from Dallas, all soccer, I was 15 going into my sophomore year. We moved to North Houston called the Woodlands. And I was left without purpose. I didn't know what to do. No soccer. Soccer in Houston at the time was not big. This is the late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So I met a couple guys, and they said, hey, come on out. Come try out for the football team. Maybe week 2 into that season, my junior year. My sophomore year, I just hung out, ran track, played soccer. And I had some buddies say, come on out and play. Try it out. So
Had you played football before?
Never in my life.
So no football at all?
My buddies saw me kicking the ball one day. And this particular day, I was running track with the track team. They were 2 weeks into the season. They said, hey, Johnson, come over here. Kick a ball for us. And the head coach was like, who is this guy? And all my buddies were like, come on, watch this guy kick. And I was in my track shoes, my shirt off, and I just popped a 50-yard field goal. And I'm like, what's the deal? What's the issue?
Do this all the time.
Bro, the next week I was in full pads, never had played, didn't even know how to put pads on, helmet, the whole thing. And I was the punter and the kickoff guy the rest of that junior year into my senior year. Very average, always strong leg, touchbacks as a senior in high school, 10, 15 deep. And a good punter, but not a great field goal kicker. And when BYU was playing A&M in 79, I believe, they came to watch me practice one of my games. I came to one of my games, Friday Night Lights, and I played terribly. Gary Zahner was the coach who watched before the Saturday game. I went to that game in Rice Stadium. And they were like, nah. He came back to Coach Edwards and said, he's not great. He's got a big leg, but not very good. But I still applied and was accepted to BYU as a walk-on in 1980 with 7, 9, probably 9 other kickers that tried out that day.
Was it always BYU for you? Was that
Always.
the dream school for you?
My
always?
dad went there. No, not really. I started with SMU during the days of Dickerson, James.
Yeah.
Couldn't get on. Then I tried Texas, couldn't get on. Then I tried some small schools that wanted me. Stephen F. Austin, Lamar University. I was like, nah, no chance. My dad said, go to BYU. So we knew Jess Taylor, the business manager at BYU at the time, with Glenn Tuckett, and he helped me get in. I was actually rejected, my application. And then the next day, I was given another letter and was accepted. Don't know how it happened, the process. Divine intervention.
Talking about from one end of the spectrum, probably just so down, and then getting accepted the next day.
I was pumped. Yeah, I was nervous because I'd going to college, still that nervous kid, just with a big leg, big tangibles. But yeah, it was crazy.
I am fascinated by looking back in my own life and in talking with people and finding those moments that are those pivotal moments that I don't know if it's necessarily a fork in the road, but your life takes one track. And I'm always, do you ever think back what would have happened if those guys on the football team didn't come up to you and say, hey, why don't you try this out?
Yeah, totally.
Because, I mean, your life would be completely different today, in all likelihood.
Everything. And all my 4 F's: faith, family, friends, finances. I talk about it once in a while. Came from BYU. I don't know what I would have done had I just continued the path of a soccer player in Texas. I had good friends, but, church was a part of my life, but it wasn't. I didn't go on a mission, so it wasn't like playing a huge role. But, yeah, my life would have been so different had I not gone to BYU. I love BYU. I'm so grateful for the role it played in my life. I'm so lucky that my dad went to BYU for a short time and had that background to make me even think about going, because my mom didn't go. They're from D.C.
Yeah. All right, when we come back, we're going to get into Lee's college and pro career. You're listening to the Deep Blue Podcast on BYU Radio. If you love Deep Blue, you'll want to check out Her Why, the podcast that's all BYU women's sports all the time. Hosted by Lauren McLean, Her Why goes beyond the scoreboard to share powerful stories of faith, courage, and hope from Cougar athletes and coaches. So check out Her Why wherever you find podcasts. Welcome back to the Deep Blue Podcast here on BYU Radio. I'm your host, Jason Shepard. My guest is Lee Johnson. It is so much fun to talk with Lee. And before the break, we had followed your timeline. We finally got you to BYU in 1980. What a year to come onto campus and be part of the football team. Look, we'll get into some specifics, but you were part of some of BYU's best ever teams. How aware were you at the time that you were part of a program-defining era?
I had no idea coming in. I went to the 79 BYU A&M game, was aware of BYU at that time. 1980, when I came in from Texas on my brown Toyota Corolla, smelling Geneva from 100 miles away. And I rolled in on a hot August day, and I saw the guys that were walking around. I'm like, what have I done? I'm in the wrong place. I don't belong. It was a really weird experience for me, just because it wasn't my world. I'm a soccer guy.
Yeah. So
to see the guys and to be a part of it, and it's not soccer where everything's happy-go-lucky and fun. It's football. It's intense. It comes with, especially in the 80s. So it was. I was aware, but not really. I didn't really care, because I didn't know. I'm just trying to find my way, just surviving. Quickly, I found out how amazing Jim McMahon was, and just college football and the power of LaVell's offense. I recognized that when I saw Bill Walsh come to practice. I'm like, what is Bill Walsh? This is the iconic Niners in the 80s. Why is Bill here? He would come to learn what we're doing. And at that point, it was just always during spring ball, I was like, okay, we're pretty cool. This is pretty amazing. That was the days of Doug Scoville, Ted Tollner, Mike Holmgren. Special time. And I realized, wow, I'm part of something pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and your first year there, you did mostly kicking off, right?
First year as a freshman.
As a freshman.
Kicked off, yeah. I didn't want any part of it either. They had me go out for the SMU game, the Miracle Bowl. And they wanted me to kick the onside kick. I kicked off during the season really well. And Gary Zahner, the guy that I mentioned, who became a coach in the NFL, who brought me to the Vikings. Gary Zahner, good to know people, in my 17th year. But he wanted me to kick the 3 onside kicks, and you've seen them, I'm sure. The first one, I hit the back of my, it was miserable. I came off, I said, we were going out for another onside kick. I said, Coach, you want me to go? You really want me to be the guy? And I won't say what he said. He said, basically, get your butt out there. And sure enough, we got that one. But it was, again, even back then, I can feel it right now talking. That same feeling that I felt even in my 18th year of just, wow, why can't? Something I learned just 2 months ago, I didn't breathe. Dude, breathing is incredible. Had I learned, I had a mental health coach, which we provide now, and learned how to breathe. Because I would go through it now, the exercise, if I got to speak or do something where I'm like, oh, this isn't that. Big, deep belly breathe. I'm like, oh, my gosh. It's amazing what that does. Just breathing. Had I learned how to breathe, I think it would have changed their trajectory. Would I played 25 years? I don't know. But would I have been a Pro Bowler? Maybe. Who knows? Right. But that's what I don't know where we're talking about this, but that's something that I learned on top of everything else we just talked about.
The Miracle Bowl obviously is one of those iconic games that everybody remembers. what do you remember from that game besides the part that you played in it?
I just remember Jim McMahon was incredible. Clay Brown, Danny Plater, the guys, that whole. You're talking the miracle. They're talking 80, right?
1980.
1980.
84.
Yep, 84 is another story.
Correct.
I was just young, hanging on, just hoping they didn't require me to do much. But I remember Kurt Gunther, Mike Meese. It was a phenomenal period of time when you witnessed a machine. We were a machine.
Yeah.
We would score at will. We just were good. And I think we were ahead of our time. They didn't know what we were doing. They didn't know what to do. We were a machine. We could run the same stuff, and people could not figure it out. We were just so good. That's what I remember.
I know people have probably heard Jim McMahon talking about how LaVell wanted to send out the punting unit, and Jim was, in words that we obviously cannot use.
Don't say the word.
Basically told LaVell that's not happening. Were you anywhere close to that conversation?
No, but I've heard it like you as many times. But that doesn't shock me. McMahon is a warrior. The dude is a natural warrior. Robbie was amazing. Steve Young's amazing. Giff, all those guys. But McMahon was Detmer. They're all great.
Yeah.
But McMahon, the intangible.
Yeah.
Here we go again. Something about that dude.
There's something mythical about Jim McMahon.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it has been, even though he's not around a lot, the fact that he is more a part of BYU than maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was on the cruise and doing things like that. That he's embracing it, and BYU certainly is embracing him. Having him back, sort of in the fold, if you will.
Yeah.
What a great thing to have Jim as someone that can talk about those days.
Yeah. And he's willing. He wanted to be there. He loved being there. He's a unique guy.
Yeah.
He's almost like a meme. He's McMahon. And he just was Jim McMahon. He was the character in the NFL. And he became this larger-than-life dude. And that's kind of been what he's lived off of, as Jim McMahon.
Yeah.
And he's a cool guy. When you sit down and talk to him, he's actually a pretty cool dude.
What's your relationship with him like today?
It's no calls. It's not like he called me, I call him. But whenever I see him, we chat, we joke, we kind of needle each other a little bit. But at that time, I was a freshman. He's a senior, junior, actually going into his senior year. So I wasn't one of his guys. Through the NFL time, we played maybe 5, 6, 7 times, and we would always talk and chat. But post-NFL, I've seen him more, and we became more of not a friendship as much as just a brotherhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, building those relationships. Yeah. Whether you were close or you played during the same time, the fact that everybody's part of BYU, that bonds all of you guys together.
It bonds you. Yeah, it does. It's special. It's cool.
So after 1980, so 80's your freshman season. After 1980, correct me if I'm wrong, you almost left BYU.
I did.
Tell the story.
Well, Gary Zahner, my guy, special teams coach from Wisconsin, non-LDS dude, had an opportunity to play with Scoville down at San Diego State. And he got a hold of me and said, "Hey, man, I'm going to San Diego State. You interested in coming along?" And I said, "Well, funny you say that." No, I was a walk-on.
Yeah.
So somehow I let LaVell know that even though I probably wasn't going to go, that, we use leverage once in a while.
Sure, yeah.
Well, I threw the leverage. And I let him know, I'm out of here, Coach. He called me in quickly and sat me down in LaVell fashion with his tongue in cheek and offered me a scholarship right there because he had heard that maybe I might be heading west. And I said, "Coach, I never was going to leave."
But you can't take the scholarship back now.
Who knows what I would have done. Again, that would have been a pivotal change in my career. So LaVell was amazing. He called me in and gave me the scholarship, and I was so grateful. Wow.
Yeah, what did that mean to you? Because obviously you were doing this in hopes of getting it, but then when you were able to have that given to you by LaVell, I've got to imagine it was probably an emotional time for you.
It was a great time. And it's funny, scholarships at BYU aren't worth a lot because you're a member of the church and you can afford to go to school. But it shows a commitment.
Yeah.
And it lets you know you're our guy. We got your back. Let's go and have some fun. And that's what I loved about it. It just shows it's a commitment that the coaches make to you.
Yeah.
Because back then it was amazing. The cost of a BYU education is priceless, but it wasn't that expensive.
Right.
But it was just a great thing to have. I just was so honored to have a scholarship and have LaVell bring me in and offer that. Wow, that was really cool.
But you redshirted in 81, right?
81 I redshirted.
So were you okay with that?
It was LaVell's way. Everyone redshirted at LaVell.
Yeah.
At LaVell's way. I mean, rarely did a freshman start. I can't remember, maybe Todd Shell. A couple guys started, but most people don't in LaVell's system. You would go through the system and get 2 years. And most of my guys, Steve, Herman, Leon White. I mean, the guys that I play, Robbie, we all had 2 years, maybe more, but maybe 2.5 or whatever. But no, it was just kind of LaVell's way. He had a great system. LaVell's system was masterful. And he just knew how to do it. It was just the way he operated.
When did things click in for you?
Well, again, the tangible. No one could outkick me. I could always kick 10, 20 deep and bombs. But after Clay Brown, as a 80, Clay Brown, All-American punter.
Yep. A lot of people don't remember that.
No, he was great. He was a phenomenal punter. Coming in as a tight end, it was unusual. I'm trying to think of another guy, Danny White, obviously quarterback for the Cowboys back then, was a punter. And then Mike Meese was actually a very good punter, and he could hit bombs. And then I just had this ability I could just bomb the ball. And my biggest problem was the same problem I had all through college, or all through the pros. It's just not a natural feeling out there. I was like, get me out there and then forget about everything I talked about, because I just wanted to get off the field and hope I had a good result.
Right.
I led the nation as a junior. Didn't have enough punts, so I couldn't qualify to be an All-American. I've averaged 50 yards. And then my senior year, we averaged 40. I think it was top 5 in the nation. But I never maximized my potential. I never hit my potential in college or in the pros. I know it sounds weird. How do you play 18 years and not hit your full potential? But I was aware of what kept me back from being as great as I wanted to be and could have been. You might not think, oh, whatever. Yeah, well, I mean, I think you're doing great. You're the best. But you know deep down maybe there's something that you could do better at. And you don't have the gift, because it is a gift. To want to have the ball on the free throw line, that's a gift.
Right. You either have that or you don't.
You don't learn it. Now,
correct.
Did I learn breathing?
Sure.
25 years later? Yeah. Wow, what a difference it could have made. But still, I don't want the ball. I'm hanging on. Do I want to pump the ball out of the end zone, 4th and 10 in the fourth quarter? Heck no. Let someone else do it.
Yeah.
But I did it, and I was okay. I wouldn't play 18 years if I wasn't pretty good.
That's right.
Never all pro. I was never all pro, which is really weird.
Is that something that eats at you?
I was always right there until November, and then the weather would play a role. Mm-hmm. But you look at Ryan Rico right now, leading the NFL.
With Cincinnati.
Bombing every ball. He's punting. My office overlooks, and he's warming up, hitting missile projectiles. And I'm like, this dude is 100% NFL. And I knew when Cincinnati picked him up that he would be special. Paul Brown Jr., the grandson of Paul Brown, the great Paul Brown, we chatted before. Because he was, when I was at Cincinnati, he was a 20-year-old kid.
Right.
We got to know each other.
Sure.
We had fun. I said, this dude's special. You're going to see. And sure enough, he's special.
He's doing his thing.
He's good. He's really, really good.
All right, I know you've talked about the nickname Thunderfoot. I know you've told this story so many times. But give everybody the origin of Thunderfoot, and this is something that you like. This was not something that you shied away from. Still to this day, you love this.
No, I like it, but I don't. We had a magazine. What was the magazine? The BYU Cougars magazine that was out back then, and they had me in a. You open up the middle, and then out comes this fold out of Lee Johnson, Thunderfoot.
Yeah.
And I think I didn't tag myself Thunderfoot. I'm not sure Paul James did or the media.
Yeah.
But I became Thunderfoot, barefooted, hitting bombs, and I was like, I dig that. I'm good. So I tease about it.
Sure.
Thunder lives.
Yeah.
But it was something that it's fun to have a nickname. It's fun to be known as something. Again, had I hit my potential, even though I was really, really good, I just am baffled that I couldn't just overcome. Yeah. But I love being Thunderfoot.
You brought up something, and I'm glad you said this because I would have honestly forgot to ask you. It is something that not only I wanted to ask you here, but I've always wondered. Why barefoot?
Before I go to BYU, I'm in Houston on my high school football field with my dad. And I take my shoe. I go, Dad, I'm going to take my shoe off. Because Russell Lurkslavin, Tony Franklin, two Texas boys, A&M and Texas Longhorns, They were barefooted. Bro, I took my shoe off, and I launched more missiles than I've ever launched in my life.
Why is that? Is there something?
Take a basketball, take a football, and drop it on shag carpet.
Okay.
And then drop it on concrete.
Okay.
The shoe's a shag carpet.
Yeah.
And my bare foot when you depress your toe and you got that big bone, when you hit it right, it flies. The problem is you have less of a sweet spot. Mm-hmm. So the consistency was always a problem. And I knew that, but I would always take the bomb over the consistency. And then when I was in Cleveland, after Houston, I go to Cleveland, and the mornings were wet. And I was slipping. I'm like, I cannot. My career's done. Or I put a shoe on. I got cut from Cleveland, go to Cincinnati to kick off. Mm-hmm. And for 2 weeks, I put a shoe on. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I can save my career. So I started the third game I was in Cincinnati as a punter and a kickoff guy and a holder. And I beat the guy out, and I threw my shoe on. And it was different, though. I took my tongue out of my shoe.
Oh, really?
To kind of create and I had a really light, thin shoe to create that feeling. And it saved my career. I never would have played had I not put a shoe on. I was done.
Well, speaking along those lines, obviously talent's probably the number one reason. I'm sure it is. But what do you attribute your longevity in the NFL to?
Fear of failure. I wanted to be great. I admired greatness. I knew I had the physical tools to be great, but I wanted to just overcome every weakness that I had. I fought hard to figure out a way to be comfortable. I would say Steve Young would be an interesting guy. I think he had issues where he feared. Anxiety was one of his.
Yeah, he's talked about mental health a lot.
And you look how successful he was. Certainly not. I wasn't anywhere near that. But yeah, I never want to. I want to succeed at everything I do. I don't ever want to be the guy that was holding people back. That's like a nightmare for me.
Sure.
Oh, Lay Johnson. That's hard for me. So that drove me. That drove me hard. I hated having a poor game. It was difficult. Sunday night, I was miserable. There's often times when I had a bad game, I would be out at nighttime. I remember a game in New England. It was awful, terrible game. And I had my wife out with me at midnight. I was punting in the neighborhood. I'm not kidding. That was a mess. But that was what drove me. Yeah.
What role did
Is that bad?
No.
To be a driving?
No.
I wonder. I don't know.
No, and I mean, look, everybody's going to be driven by different things.
Yeah.
We all take different things into every situation. We all take life experiences differently into every situation.
Yeah.
I don't think it's bad at all.
Yeah.
What role did your wife and your family play as you were going through your career?
Amazing. My wife, incredible. Provo girl, Tempe High School. Oh my gosh, 4.5 years younger. I met her after my first year. We were set up, went on a date, and quickly fell in love. And she ended up moving to Houston with me. She stayed with my mom and dad in the Woodlands. She worked at Bennigan's, like a Friday.
Oh, yeah, I know Bennigan's, yeah.
So she came down, and we stayed the whole season, her living at my folks in the Woodlands, and I was playing for the Oilers. So it was great. We got married that next year.
Yeah.
And we didn't quickly have kids. 3 years later, we had kids.
And how many kids do you have?
7 kids.
7 kids.
17 grandkids, bro. I'm a mess. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how that happened. That's what I don't know how it happened.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
That should scare you.
That messed me up.
When did you know that it was time to turn the page? Sometimes you make that decision. Sometimes others make the decision.
Yeah.
What was your story?
They made the decision. So I'm in my 18th year going to Philly. I called Andy and I said, Andy, bring me in. Sean Landetta, the punter, got hurt.
Yeah.
So Andy brings me in, and I have a good camp, a good workout. It's December, so it's rough. So I play 4 games with Philly, and that's a year that we go to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
When I have my revelation of inspiration of, oh, really? 18 years later, I can feel good. The story I just told early in the segment. But yeah, and then Andy let me go. Then the season ends. Andy doesn't sign me. I'm like, Andy, come on, give me a chance. I finished strong. And he goes, look, there's another Johnson kid up there. I forget his name, 2-year guy. We're going to give him a shot, and we don't think he'll pan out, but we'll bring you back. So 3rd game in training camp that next year, he brings me in. I have a monster game, 4 for 50 or whatever. And he says, look, great game, but we're still going to try this guy. We're going to cut you. We'll plan on bringing you back after 3 weeks or something. And sure enough, the dude has a pretty good year. And it doesn't have a bad enough time to where they can justify cutting him.
Sure.
So 1 year out at 40 years old, 41 years old, it's tough. Typically, it's hard to get back in. And I tried because I wanted to figure out this new breathing, this new, oh, wow, epiphany. I like it out here.
Yeah, like I could really enjoy the rest of this now.
I never got to play except that there you go, the next game, the next season, in that 3rd preseason game when I go 4 for 50. That was under that
new mindset.
That new mindset, that new vibe of, oh, wow, I can make this work.
So what do you do then? When you realize that the NFL career is done now, it's time to move on to something else, what did you do?
Quickly, I've always loved the stock market. I'm a junkie. I love trading stocks. It's became my thing. During my career in the NFL, I got my Series 7, which is it's the license you need to be a stock broker. I worked for Merrill Lynch. So I did a bunch of stuff in that area. So
while you were playing?
While I was playing. I would do my own account. I would mess around. I worked at Merrill Lynch for a while, but realized you can't manage clients and play football. It's just hard. Yeah. So I would do my own thing, and I made a hobby out of it. And thank goodness. It really was fun to be able to because we have a lot of downtime during the season.
Right.
Because the meetings, the other guys are meeting. So I would have a lot of time. I would just learn stocks and play the market and have a good time. So I went into that a little bit, and I did a few ventures with some buddies, did a couple things in the Balkan, moving water for oil back then when they were doing all the drilling.
Yeah.
You need a lot of water. It was kind of cool, actually. But I learned a few things there. And then at 51, an opportunity came at BYU with Chad. And it opened up a spot in development, so I jumped on it. I was like, I'm done doing this. I want to do something that's cool and rewarding and you're around people.
Yeah. Had you wanted to come back to BYU? Is that something you had contemplated?
No, I didn't think about it. I really wanted to work in the venture capital private equity world, money management, something along the lines of markets. But you had to move. The people that I was dealing with, that I was talking to, they wanted me to move to either New York or San Francisco or Florida. And I was like, that ain't going to happen. I don't want no part of that. So it came up, and I just my mindset isn't to ask people for money. I'm a relationship guy. So I've had to learn how to build a relationship and then ask. So it's not a natural for me to, hey, buddy, I want to give me a couple $100,000. Right. Like, no, that's not my gig. But over time, it's relationship driven.
Sure.
It's all relationships. So I thought, okay, I know people. I can relate to people and have a good time. So it's become really cool.
And you've been back roughly a decade?
Yeah.
About 10 years or
11
so?
years.
Yeah.
Almost 12 years. 12 years in April. Weird. Went fast.
Time flies, right?
I'm 63, bro. 64 in a month. I'm not feeling good. I'm really bummed out.
All right, I want to end with one more question. So I want to know from you, what did it mean and what does it still mean to you to be able to represent Brigham Young University?
In high school in Texas, I did not. Church was, hey, we're going to church. Ah, really? All my buddies were non-Mormons. I had no Mormons down there. Coming here until I wasn't, after my freshman year, I was like, where are you guys going? Well, they're all going on missions. I'm like, well, what are you doing? You crazy? I didn't even think about a mission. I didn't know about a mission. I didn't grow up like they do here where it's what you do.
Yeah.
And you don't decide, your freshman year that you're going to go on a mission when everyone else is going when you've never thought about it. And I was like, no chance. I didn't realize the power of a mission. And then all the kids came back and all my buddies came back and I'm like, wow, dude, you grew up spiritually. So I was always envious of that. I was always envious of the experiences you learn on a mission. Well, I was a junior year and I didn't have a patriarchal blessing. I'm like, wow, I'm dating a really beautiful young lady. That was a year later. But the time was I did not even have a patriarchal blessing. I'm like, I got to figure this out. These girls want a man who can represent and take them to the temple and just be a leader, a spiritual leader. So I realized real fast, I better pull it together. And it was through BYU that allowed me that experience. So like I said, the 4 Fs, everything that is near and dear to me, I learned at BYU. the faith especially. It's been a huge role in my life. Everything I do is built around, is this what the Savior would want me to do? Is my behavior that way? Is my mind thinking that way? It's really, that just shapes you. And I think that's the beauty of our university and what we teach is just principles of, hey, the most successful, you can do these things, but the odds are you'll be more successful if you do it this way.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about BYU. It puts you on a path where you can be successful. And I think that's what I learned while I was at BYU.
Fantastic. Lee, this was so much fun. I hope you enjoyed it because this was so much fun. Yeah. Thanks for doing this. This was great.
You're great, by the way. It's awesome.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Wonderful time.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you once again to my guest, Lee Johnson. My name is Jason Shepard. Ben Hall produced this episode. Deep Blue senior producer is Cleon Wall. You can download and subscribe to Deep Blue on all podcast platforms or find all episodes on the BYU Radio app. Deep Blue is a production of BYU Radio.